Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into another episode of Notes of Design. In this episode, it's a special documentary edition and we have Professor Kirti Trivedi sir with us. Welcome to the show, sir. So, sir, if you could give a brief about yourself to our viewers out there.
Hello, my name is Kirti Trivedi. I have been a designer for over 52 years. And this episode, we will talk about the golden period of industrial design, which I consider to be 1970s from to 1990s. Some of the greatest minds were active in design, and I learned from them. It's a very exciting journey. We'll be sharing this.
So, Kirti sir, what was your journey into design and how did you start?
Actually, I started my design journey from a place called Industrial Design Center in IIT Bombay. My first degree was in mechanical engineering, and after doing engineering, I was thinking what to do next. I already had admission in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore for aeronautics. I was admitted in machine design and vibrations in Pratt Institute. And then I saw this newspaper ad from IIT about a new department called Industrial Design Center. So I decided to go there, and then started my design journey. The whole building of IDC was covered with images of German products, mostly of a company called Prof, and mostly designed by a designer called Data Labs. The professor who was the founding head of IDC was Professor Sugiura, who had studied in, at that time, the best design school in the world, the design school in Ulm. And when he came back and started IDC, the entire Ulm culture, the West German design culture, was the way we were supposed to learn design. So we were surrounded, and this simple vocabulary of minimal geometry of circles and dots and very refined, very minimalistic was the way to design correctly. There was no ornamentation, and this typically shaped all of us into design. This has become, because the training was very rigorous, this has become my first nature. By nature, my impulse is to design like a German designer and to design in Ulm style. You can see in this area or in there, they are simple shapes, just with various basic primitives, but very beautifully arranged with great proportion and very beautifully detailed. And it was just a play of simple basic shapes, elegantly arranged and elegant, that characterized the Ulm design. This created a sort of timeless design which does not age at all. So these switches, these models of a speaker from 1967, which is exactly anticipates Alexa now. So Data Labs actually created a design vocabulary which has become the standard for good design. Apple design has not added a single new idea into what was perfected at Prof by Data Labs. After IDC, I was fortunate enough to get admitted into the Royal College of Art, which was considered the best design school in the world at that time. And those 2 years were enormously enriching. First, we had great students. Some of them went on to become famous designers worldwide, and it was a complete atmosphere of freedom. And we used to look forward. We used to look forward because there was a galaxy of great designers, not only in England, but in Europe. And we used to look after every single product from. Sir Misha Blake was the head of the design research unit. He was the head of Royal College of Art also. He was the founder of, is considered the father of British industrial design. is the one who laid the foundation. Intercity rail symbol, designed by his company, is the most copied transport symbol in the world. In India itself, at least 10 organizations are copying some variation of this. So this was the place where original high quality design used to be there. David Herman Powell was a teacher at the Royal College of Arts. He was a famous plastics designer and used to do completely unconventional plastic design, setting us all the rules which we were told you have to follow when you do plastic design, like to give a draft, to give a taper, not to keep a finishing thickness. Actually, he used to say that you don't really understand anything about design till you are 35. And he's the one who explained to us the idea of detailing at great magnification. So this plastic cutlery, he was doing drawings at 200 times the size. And so to turn radiuses and jet things to show how we had to magnify to give something perfect at the next level. Then there was Kenneth Grange. He was the ideal of all British designers. Very beautiful design. He was the founding partner in Pentagram, one of the world's best design companies at that point, graphic designers, industrial designers together. And this is Intercity designed by Kenneth Grange, but he's best known for his sewing machine. And again, you can see the same minimalistic formal vocabulary, clean shapes, basic geometry, and proportions and joints perfectly handled. They got into our basic DNA. That good design means this kind of design. All his Kenwood products, his mixers, his juicers, his clocks, all these things, Kenneth Grange was an icon. Right from IDC, we had the library where all the top design magazines in the world used to come. Domus and Art Econom and Arbitre and Industrial Design magazine. And through that was our window to the world. We used to look at each magazine, each time everybody used to see, because they used to launch products. They used to launch every time somebody designed something, they used to want. And with stores like Habitat, we did lifestyle shops furnishing, or Conround, which created complete ambiences. There was never a retail shop like this. All this happened when I was at the Royal College of Art in 1972. So, actually England was the center of creativity at that point. And so many new things were happening, all of that. So at the Beatles time, the Merry-Go-Round time, the protest time, the anti-Vietnam time, the hippies time, all of that. And there were so many designers we used to admire because they will do suddenly something completely unexpected. Rochester, my favorite designer, I used to admire his work for his detailing and new ideas. He was a French designer. And the thing, this is his foldable chair. It collapses into just a single plank as opposed to other ideas of collapsing chairs. And his wristwatches for this company called Liv. When first time I saw a watch where the dial is not circular, but it's straight on one side. This was inconceivable. We would always have fully square dials, but he created a half straight dial. And the way he put those knobs to change the time was extremely creative. This is much before. We are talking about 1973. And Swatch came much after, but he anticipated the variety which people need in watches. This is a series of, actually they were all systems. I'm showing individual products, but they were all systems. So his system of track lighting, or his staircase, modular staircase. So it's the same plastic piece which joins together to create the staircase. It's packaging for elf. So this whole way of doing things very beautifully. Another great designer at that time was Rodolfo Bonetto. Here's again an Italian designer. Actually, most of the top designers in that time were Italians, and they were all architects. They were all architects who turned industrial designers. This television set, for example, when it first came out, nobody could think television sets can look like this. So these were new formal possibilities, things never seen before. This container for magazines, which was there. Another designer, Enzo Mari, great furniture designer, a very creative person. His planters, which drew on plant forms. So at the time, every time a designer tried to do this, his whole impulse was to create something completely new which nobody saw before. And that surprise in creating something very memorable was the joy of being a designer. It's also a very famous thing. So many fishes become one large shell. Professor Nick Rorit, who was a student at the Ulmi School and later became the chief designer for Wilcon, the company which is known as the Rolls Royce of chairs. His picto chair is a masterpiece of design. I actually own this chair. The amount of perfect detailing which goes into this is 3-4 kinds of materials joining together into something extremely comfortable. Another great is Mario Bellini. He's of the two designers I admire most. I'm leaving the one I admire most to the last, is Mario Bellini, for sheer range of his work, from small products to furniture to systems. He was a master of them all. And his products, every time something designed by Mario Bellini will be launched into the magazines, even at Royal College of Art, all of us used to go to the stores to actually see the product. This is his product for a calculator system. The new thing is here, besides the shape, is the product is covered with a thin rubber skin. So there are no joints between the keys. Normally, when you press a key, there is a hole around. But he covered the whole thing in a skin, and it's part of a system. So you can add the printer module, you can add another module, and it will go. Mario Bellini's mastery of forms, and everybody, I think they used to compete with each other who can make the most different things never before seen by anybody. So this particular chair was my favorite. The weight, actually, it takes the body weight and adjusts to any position. You recline back, it will take your shape. Without handles and this lifts and things going up, you just sit into this, it adjusts to the position. This is a beautiful idea. This is his tape recorder with all the controls made for Yamaha. Actually, many of the Japanese designers used to, for their high-end products, used to engage European designers, especially Italians, and this wage kind of thing. So there's a geometry, there's a different kind of geometry which sets it apart, and within that perfect detail and all the functions. There's a television by Mario Bellini. It's a chair. Now, if you can unwrap this chair from its leather cushion, there is just a metal frame. Without the cushion, it will look very ordinary chair. But the way he created the very expensive leather upholstery just to put on top suddenly makes it a very exclusive chair. This is another, which is a system of cushions you can arrange and rearrange and very comfortable and many different uses. So one of the greatest superstars of industrial design at that point, and the one all of us at Royal College admired, was the Italian designer Ettore Sozzas. There was no one to beat him. He used to come out with such surprising things. His whole life actually is a description of how design evolved. The most famous product by Ettore Sozzas, and according to one of the most beautiful products ever designed, is his Olivetti Valentine typewriter, a red colored product which is a masterpiece of how to use radius beautifully. The posters which were created to promote this product are in themselves are masterpieces. We miss this culture now because products, first of all, don't have this kind of flamboyance and this kind of visual surprise. And they are never promoted like this, with best of the world graphic designers coming to create advertising and posters for the product. These two posters of Valentine were created by the world famous graphic design from USA, Milton Glaser. And see the poster with the dog, this typewriter, this dog, and just the legs of a girl. It showed the portability of this typewriter, that you could take it to the beach and work anywhere. And on the side, we see another typewriter by Sozzas. Sozzas' association with Olivetti is very old. He designed their entire range of products from the classical typewriters, always showing great sophistication in detailing and engineering. When he came, so we can see in these sections the perfection of perfect product design. And Olivetti products designed by Sozzas actually made Olivetti the world leader in design quality. Braun and Olivetti, these were the two firms that brand meant high quality design. He designed a system of office furniture for Olivetti, a complete range of the products. When during the UNESCO UNDP assistant program to IDC, Sozzas came to India and I was his counterpart and we became good friends. We toured all over India. At that time in Ujjain, there was Kumbh Mela going on. So we went to Kumbh Mela and he was fascinated by the truck windows, the different uses of materials, the various colors, the juxtaposition. And then was launched the range Memphis. So Memphis was a completely new movement, nearly anti-conventional design of that time. Sozzas used to call the minimal design of the Olvi school or the Inter-Rams kind of design an expression of Catholic asceticism. And he said, why things have to be so minimal when culture around us is so vibrant? And completely new vocabulary, bright colors mixing with each other, all kinds of shapes. Sozzas' final phase of Sozzas' life is very experimental, where all kinds of shapes, his decorative ceramics, his glass products, his stainless steel products, his plates based on Indian tantric motifs. These are all classics of design. Sozzas, these are all based on Indian miniature paintings about Indian cosmology. He called these the Tantra series of plants. Actually, Sozzas himself acknowledges the influence of India on his work. And this was a turning point for me because the world's greatest designer himself acknowledges that he gets his best ideas from India. While we Indians ourselves in our design thinking, we are not looking at our own culture at all. We were looking completely outwards. So we have talked about some great European designers of that time. At that time, since I studied in Royal College of Art and was only exposed to English magazines, my understanding was limited to the way European designers work. In the same UNDP program in 1981, I went to Japan and had a chance to work at GK International, which was world's largest design agency, and to meet Mr. Kenju Ekwan himself. And this was a completely different design culture from which I was accustomed to. GK is not only Japan's largest agency, but has an international presence, and many of the things you see in Tokyo are designed by JC, like the Narita Expo Airport, or all the motorcycles from Yamaha, or the musical instruments. And the reason they are so advanced of their time is their great emphasis on doing deep research about design. This was an internal exhibition, Complexity, Simplicity, in which they studied different dimensions of design, which created the framework for future design. And this was not something, this emphasis on research, I had seen in other places. I also met Masanari Umeda, who's a very famous Japanese designer, part of the invited member of the Memphis group of Ettore Sotsas. His sumo wrestler's ring is a famous Memphis product. And I met Sori Yanagi, the rishi of Japanese design, a person who's as much a monk and a revered person as a designer. This butterfly stool, again, is in permanent collection of Museum of Modern Art. He also ran the crafts movement in Japan and talked about and tried to give culture to the human side of this. See, his father was a Zen philosopher, and he said the sentence, "It's impossible to create beauty." This requires a lot of understanding to answer the significance of this sentence. In my class in Industrial Design Center at IIT Bombay, where I used to teach product design, I used to show products by this designer. In Japan, I actually got to meet him and become friends with him, Masahari Mori. He used to work for a ceramics company called Hoxon. And the simplicity of his product, very simple, straight forms, but with some additions which made them unique. And this was something I'd never seen in contrived design. His next series, I used to go to Japan nearly every year after my first visit, and you could see the evolution of design of Masahiro Mori. So his next series is much more playful and more beautiful, and play of various natural elements. So from complete geometry, his work became more and more organic. This was a completely different sensibility. This was an Asian sensibility, and a different way of looking at things. And in the next discussion, we will talk about this difference of cultures, which makes design so interesting and which makes it necessary we think about the culture before we can design about it.